Okay. I hope that we are online finally. And hello everyone. I'm really pleased to welcome you on our live KeenTools live show. And this one going to be about GeoTracker for Blender. Actually, it's not some regular thing. We usually have a new episode of our KeenTools Live when we release something big, release a new feature, release a new product, and this time it's a new product, which is called GeoTracker. And before we start, I'll explain how it all works, what we're gonna do today. So first, we have a chat here in YouTube, so please ask your questions, and then I will be basically today your voice, because I will not present today. By the way, my name is Roman Belov. I am a founder at KeenTools, and today we have two wonderful people in our show. And please welcome Caleb Natale. Hello, Caleb.
How's it going?
Yeah, thank you. How are you?
Doing well today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Caleb is a social media VFX wizard with over 1 billion views online and over 3 million followers, running a tiny production company that creates VFX magic for some of the largest brands and corporations. And once there was a time when I could introduce myself, something like this, but the numbers were smaller. I have a question to you, Caleb. How it's possible that you have 3 million followers and only 1 billion views? I thought that the numbers should be vice versa.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of how the algorithms work.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, and we also really wonder how our algorithms usually work. Sometimes some of our videos are going crazy online without any promotion from our side or something, but we are just always pleased about it. And welcome, Piotr. Peter is a product manager at KeenTools, and also he's responsible for quality assurance. So if he will find some bugs today, then actually it's just part of his job. So be
that would be
prepared to it.
nice. Yeah.
Okay, and the last thing I want to say that we have a Discord channel. And this Discord channel, the link is here in YouTube in the description. And if you have the questions between our shows, not online, you can always write questions in our Discord. We are helping there every day. KeenTools Live, it's not the first episode today. Actually, today is even not the 10th. It's something like 12th episode. So we had quite a number of them, about GeoTracker Nuke, about FaceBuilder, and MetaHuman, how to create virtual people. So lots of nice stuff. If you work in Blender, then particularly for you, going to be very interesting two episodes, FaceBuilder and Blender, and FaceBuilder for Blender continued, because we introduced several wonderful new features in 2021. And today I'm pleased to say that we'll talk about GeoTracker. GeoTracker is already a standard de facto for for tracking objects in VFX in Nuke, because it's probably the most convenient tool, and it's sometimes can track stuff that other trackers can't. And with the same quality and some additional features, we ported it to Blender. And today, Piotr will go through all the features it has. So over to Piotr.
Yeah. Hi guys. Nice to be here. I want to show you the plan of our stream today. I'm gonna talk about basics of our plugin, like how we think you think when you work in it, and then we'll go to advanced features because it's not kind of toy. I think it's pretty easy to use, but actually there's a lot of cool features inside, and time to time we'll go deeper and deeper, and finally we will see a few examples how you can use it even in simulations. So let's start, I think. And first, I'd like to share the tab where I have Blender. Just a minute. Do you see my screen? Can I see it?
Yeah, while you're starting, I want to ask Caleb, like, regarding your experience with GeoTracker. How did you know about this tool? Like, what was your first impression? Was it easy to start? Was it easy to understand how it all works? Oh, it seems you're muted or something.
Sorry about that. Yeah, my mic was muted. I just unmuted it. So I first heard about GeoTracker for Blender, I believe directly from the KeenTools Instagram page, but it wasn't from searching for it. I think it just showed up on my, like, what is that called? The Explore page or whatever, just because I interact quite often with plugin and add-on feature type stuff for Blender. And yeah, it looked like magic, and I started using it, and it kind of works like magic. So,
was it easy to start? Like,
what was that?
Was it easy to start with it? Like, did you like watch our tutorial, or it was like intuitive from the very beginning?
So I started by watching 1 or 2 videos that already existed on your guys' YouTube account, and that was a great launch point to just kind of understand the basics immediately after about, like, I don't know, 8 minutes of tutorials. And I haven't really dived super deep with it, so I'm very excited for this call today to kind of figure out more intricate aspects of it. But once I figured out the basics, I was able to use it, I believe at this point, in 3 different videos on my page. And 2 of those scenarios in particular, it was kind of like a lifesaver where if I didn't have this tool, I was unsure how I would particularly be able to track these objects in the shot, or I would have to pay somebody else to do it. So I'm very grateful for it.
So nice to hear. Yeah, nice to hear it. Well, let's start. This is the common Blender startup window, and you can find our plugin right here in this panel. Just here it is, a GeoTracker. And if you press the Create GeoTracker, you will get this setup. So GeoTracker has a lot of different panels, but only 3 of them are opened when you start this plugin first time. So the first one is the GeoTracker object. It's called cube, like the cube in our scene. And the second one is inputs, so the source for our tracking. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so
we can hear you.
I think you disabled the microphone, and I decided I'm off.
That's exactly what we did. We
disabled
microphone.
Okay. No problem. No problem. Just do not disable it, please. I want to hear the white noise in my ears. Okay, so this is the inputs. And here we can choose what we want to track. So clip is the video source. The geometry is geometry source, and the camera, well, it's camera. And by default, I have only one camera and only one object here in my scene, so that's why GeoTracker handle it and put it inside. But, well, I want to get rid of the cube, because I don't want to track a cube. I want to track something special. And, well, something special, that's the Fox video. So here it is. I just go inside the camera to look what I have here. And I have a plate with the two fox.
Well, here should be some explanation. Like,
okay, yeah.
Foxes. It's like the footage. It's all started with this footage. We were working on a feature film when the main characters are these puppets. It's actually puppets. It's not 3D render or something. There's puppet, and it's kind of animatronic puppets when you can open the mouse and you can control eyelashes and all this kind of stuff. But like, it's impossible to look at feature film like 1 hour long if they all like have such faces. And the task was actually like take these faces and make them live, to make wet eyes, to add some expressions and all this kind of stuff. And we had like more than 500 shots for like probably less than 3 months. And we like understood that we need to track a lot. And that's how like the idea of GeoTracker appeared, because like all other tools were unable to track it. And that's why
you're definitely right. I remember that.
Peter was also working on this project, and it was like a lifesaver for us as well. That's basically the story behind this footage, and that's why usually when we start talking about GeoTracker, we always show this footage first. And like I remember when the first version of GeoTracker can track only like 1 or 2 frames of this footage or something
per second.
But like, no, not per second. Just like after probably 10. Okay, after 10 frames, the tracking was completely off, and like we constantly was improving the quality. We were improving it, and like in the last versions, like you can actually set up just 1 keyframe somewhere, and like if you're lucky enough, then it will track everything automatically, which is like wow. Okay, sorry, Peter.
Yeah, I think it's very important, to explain why we have this shot, but also why I took this shot is because it's I think one of the best shots to explain how GeoTracker works, because we have a lot of different actions that we can do in this shot to explain some features, some techniques, and so on. So I want to start with geometry, because I need geometry for GeoTracker, and I'll press import obj and try to find the geometry for this Fox1. Here it is, the first geometry, and I can select it here. And now, as I see, I have camera, I have geometry, I have a clip, and I have this red button with Analyse word on it. So I will press Analyze and try to explain what's going on here. While our tracking works really fast now, and one of the key features that we have that we pre-analyze our footage before we start tracking, and all this analyzed data we put in a file, and you can store this file, you can transfer it between PCs, between projects, and so on, and use it again and again. So the next time you just load this file also as an input, and then you can immediately start your tracking process. But for now, this is the first time I open this shot, so I have to press Analyze, and I left the default folder here, the TMP folder, but you can put any other name here of the file and so on, so you can work with your file system.
Also add that if there is someone from big studios watching us now, like we have some small tool that helps you automate this process. So you can do it on a rendering farm or something, so you can do it in advance. And when artists open the project, it will be already analyzed, and then the process is blazing fast. That's basically the idea, to try to minimize the actual artist time, and do not minimize the compute time. That's basically was the idea behind splitting this process.
Yeah,
over.
and I think that was really cool idea. And well, now we are here. We have all the inputs inside our plugin, so no red buttons or fields here. So I think we can start and start Pinmode. This is the button we need on the tracking panel, the third opened panel when you use this plugin. So I'll press and dive inside this shot. So what's going on here? Here's a split screen where we can see the 3D scene simultaneously with our Pinmode and compare what's going on inside. And I want to enable the floor here, some axes just to understand in space where we are. So we are looking through the camera on our object, and this is the wireframe of our object. What we can do here, we can move it just by hand, just pin it and align with the footage. So let's try to do it with the 3 pins like this. Okay, 3 is not enough, but it's enough, like this. And well, then this button is track forward, the common button for people who used motion tracking here in Blender, the native motion tracking. This is the icons from that tracker, so it's easy to understand where to press. Well, and now, as you see, we have a head that moves pretty okay, pretty like we have it in the footage. And that's how fast it is. So if you have already calculated file with the analysis, and then you can track it like in 10 seconds. I think 200 frames in 10 seconds. Well, that's pretty fast. But it's not so accurate as we may want. And we can try to understand what's going on here. And as I see, we cannot match this head. I'll go to appearance, just make it a little bit transparent. We cannot match this wireframe with the head, and that's because of the perspective in the shot, because of the focal length. So what we have here, we have camera tab, where we can work with this exact camera that we have in a scene. So I open it and I see 50 millimeters. Well, that's not 50 millimeters. I think, yeah, that's not 50 millimeters. Let's try to guess it. And well, I can enter here something like 30 and try to match this time and again. But I will press Ctrl-Z and estimate focal length. This is an amazing tool that allows you, if you have 4 or more pins, to estimate focal length. And as you see, I can match this wireframe, and in 3D space, I change position of the head, of the fox head, and at the same time, the focal length. So as you see, I change focal length and position at the same time. And now I matched it. So I can disable it manually. I can just a little bit scroll. Anyway, when I move something on a playback, estimate focal length just disables because it's a tool. It's not it's not influenced on the tracking process. It's just a tool to estimate this value of the focal length. So let's try to retrack.
By the way, you just clicked on a wonderful button, which is actually navigation between keyframes.
Yeah,
which is also very
I will explain it a few words after retracking. So I track it again, and as you see, head moves better and aligned with the mesh. So it's really good. But actually, I have problems in the end. So after about 200 frames, we have small slide, and well, that's the time to introduce keyframes. So keyframes is that frames where you manually put the wireframe, align it with the object. And so the first time when we align it, we actually create that keyframe, and it's here on the playback, like green dotted line, vertical. And now I try to match the wireframe on this frame, and as you see, I created that dotted line here also. So this is a keyframe, the yellow one, and this is the keyframe number 1. This is number 2, this is number 1. So, but I changed the position only in a keyframe, but actually between I have old tracking, still old tracking, and I want to retrack this gap between first and the second keyframe. And that's what we call refine. So we have the special refine buttons under the tracking buttons, which you can press when you are between keyframe or on the keyframe. So when you press refine, tracking goes from the first keyframe to the second, then from the second to the first. And then the math just mix it with the special weights, and finally you get smooth, accurate, and fast track. That's how it works. Roman, take a word.
Well, it's absolutely amazing. Like, to be honest, I'm like, okay, frankly, I very much new guy. I'd never worked in Blender because like I use only FaceBuilder in Blender because it's awesome. And actually this tracking and the process is, well, it's even more intuitive and fast than in Nuke. So I really think that probably I have to switch to Blender for tracking as well, because it's like, wow. And yeah, amazingly. And what is also cool is that as far as I can understand, like we can now verify the quality of this tracking, right? As, we can zoom to any point of the surface and check if it was tracked correctly or not.
Yeah, you're definitely right. So the next step is just verify that everything goes right, that we have really good tracking, not just imaginative good tracking. So let's talk about this panel. So first thing is a selector, and it's always by default the geometry selector. So it means that we want to track geometry, but actually, as you see, we can track camera. But I will explain it later how it works. So the next button is a start pin mode or exit it. So this is the button to get in this alignment mode. So then we have a block of tracking buttons, which we used like previously. Then we have a buttons, which is navigation of our playback. So here we have buttons to jump between keyframes, and actually we have special shortcuts here, Alt and left arrow, Alt and right arrow. So you can
actually we don't only have shortcuts, but we also have a question in our chat from Salazar that he needs shortcuts to jump between keyframes. So please take a notice. We have them.
I think that's match. So we have shortcuts, and you can just look what shortcut do you have. Just point the mouse over the button, and there you can see the shortcut, and it works. I mean, I tested. So the next two buttons is adding and deleting keyframes. So I can add keyframe even without touching any pins. Just click here, and here it is, the new keyframe.
Yeah, sometimes it's really useful when you have like a nice tracking, and at some point you see that tracking is like slightly going off. So you can isolate the part, the only part you need, and to like you take the last frame where tracking is okay, you introduce tracker at that point, and then you can like introduce one more keyframe in the end, and then you can track between them, and like it's very handy.
like imagine you have a good tracking till the 93rd keyframe, and then you have bad tracking. So you can, of course, put here tracking keyframe, then refine, then find other places where it goes bad. For example, here place another and another and another. But the better way just to isolate this first part from the second, and then just refine it and get the good result.
By the way, while we are here, Elizabeth asks us if we have an option to remap these shortcuts, or they just coupled with buttons.
Well, I'm not sure that's my fault, but I think here in settings, in preferences, we have key maps. And I think all our key maps are somewhere here in these settings. I mean, here's a lot of settings, but you can try to find it here. And well, we will try to verify that we have that option. But I'm pretty sure that we have that option here, because this is the same key map system that Blender has. So here it is. The next row is about clearing our tracking. So if we want to clear some part of the tracking, for example, from here, or even not from keyframe, from any other place, we have here this button and this button, the first and the third, to clear tracking this way or clear tracking this way. So this is
Peter. There is a small information for you, which is pretty important. That it seems. Oh no, Elizabeth actually messed everything in the comments. She said that she can't see the pointer, but actually we see your pointer. It's okay. Everything is okay.
Okay.
Please continue.
Okay, no problem. So the button between clearing keyframes one way and the other way is a button that clear keyframe, the tracking frames between keyframes, between manual keyframes, like this. So I still have this keyframe and this, but everything between just interpolated. So that could be useful for interpolating between keyframes without tracking. So if you have a hard, really bad motion between, but it's linear, but with, for example, with a huge motion blur, the very fast movement, you can put manually one keyframe, another one, and just interpolate between. And so the last button is a button that clears all data or all tracking data. So all tracking data is all tracking keyframes, but not manual. The all data means everything. So, but
I would probably add to interpolation between keyframe. First of all, don't please be afraid of this terrible word interpolation. It's just smooth animation between keyframes.
Yeah.
And I have two more use cases when it can be useful. First one is basically when something goes behind the screen. Sometimes you have just almost 0 points to track on the object, but you still see the object. And in that case, sometimes instead of placing lots of keyframes, you can put one keyframe in the very end and smoothly animate it between some keyframe when you clearly see the object. And it will be way simpler than any other case. Another thing is actually occlusions. We obviously will talk about occlusions a little bit later, but again, if you have for example, I don't know, a mic and in front of your face or something, and it's passing by, then you can just put keyframe before and after and just smoothly interpolate, especially if the object doesn't move at all. Then it's nice solution instead of drawing a mask around the object and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of advanced thing, but actually you can work with all these curves, the tracking curves, here in the graph editor in Blender. So, I mean, if you need the motion of the object after after the tracking. For example, you have a car that rides from one side to the other, but then you need that car moving. For example, for motion blur, you can play here with all that parameters that you have here. For example, interpolation parameters, easy in, easy out, and all the other. For example, I don't remember actually where it is here, but you can even extend all the animation outside. So just I try to find it, but I forget where it is. But actually, it was here. You can work here if you know how to work with the curves. You can work here as you can work with your own curves when you animate the object. So that's the power of GeoTracker, because GeoTracker is just the animation tool, kind of animation tool.
Exactly. By the way, Caleb, did you use some of this stuff? Like, did you try to manually change the keyframe, change the curves, or interpolate between the keyframes or something like this?
Yeah, so I've actually used almost everything we've talked about in the last 10 minutes on a few different projects. One in particular, I was doing a head track, and I believe FaceBuilder could have been the option for that as well. But I found like a generic human head. It worked close enough with the geometry of the head that I was tracking in the shot. And I guess that's another point to bring up is sometimes if the geometry isn't perfect, but it's close enough, you can still get a really high fidelity track out of it as long as you're able to like track certain points and features. So yeah, I was able to basically start with a track that was, I would say 90% there. There's a few hiccups, some sliding motion. What I didn't know about is just doing a manual interpolation from point A to point B. I think I ended up doing a little bit of manual tracking for about 10 frames or so. But then other than that, I think there was a total of maybe 12 or 15 frames over the course of 450 frames of animation. And then using the refine tools, we got it basically there. And it was really important for this shot in particular because I was doing fake hair in Blender. And so I really wanted to make it believable in Cell, and I think it did just that. There was another shot where I was tracking a playground in the background of the shot. There was no perfect geometry of said playground, so I had a really rough scan I took via Polycam the day of, where I just went around the playground, and the geometry was close enough that I was able to pull a pretty convincing track. And that was another scenario where it was like, if I didn't have that, I wasn't really sure how I was going to go about tracking the shot, because I had tried some default Blender After Effects tracking, tried Synthesize. I'm not super familiar in Synthesize, and so this was kind of like the backup, and it worked beautifully.
By the way, you mentioned very important thing. Like, actually, it's a common question, like how to get the model, like how to obtain it. And when we were like, I don't know, like 5 years ago, we had to scan it somehow with 3D scanner. For example, this one was obtained through structural light. Then appeared this like tools like Metashape and reality capture, and it's photogrammetry. But nowadays, you can easily do it with your iPhone and Polycom software that will like create a more or less nice point cloud, which can be then easily retopologized, and you get the mesh, which is like close enough for tracking. And it's like wonderful way.
And I was going to say, for my own experience, I've noticed that depending on how good that geometry is, the sloppier and the less accurate it is, the more keyframes you're probably going to be adding in the process. So of course, like the closer to the actual thing you can get, the better.
Yeah,
exactly. And one of
correlate.
Yeah, it's correlate. And one of the like really important things regarding GeoTracker is that even if you have the model which is like not precise or quite far from the original, it will still work, but you will just like have to do a bit more manual work. That's the power of keyframes. Okay, so
yeah. The last block of buttons here in our tracking panel is a block of buttons that helps you with pinning process. And well, we have here toggle pins, which mean that all pins now are disabled, but as they are still here. So now I activate this one just by touching it. So it's like I have only one pin, but actually I have all of them. So why I can need it? Just for example, in a case where I have like really different angle of my model, and I want to place it accurately, but if they are not disabled, that would be probably a little bit difficult to do, just because I try to move it and all the other pins like mess it up. And well, if I toggle all of them, I can now again put it right here, then right here, then right here. And this is kind of the very helpful instrument if you have a lot of keyframes on your playback. So the other button, just removing all the pins. And here's the lock view. So the lock view is that instrument that helps you to verify the quality of your tracking. That was what Roman said about the verifying quality. So generally, if you have no selected pins and you enable the lock view, by the way, L on the keyboard, we have a shortcut here. So when you enable it, I can play the playback and the object always will be in a center. It looks like everything okay, like regular, but I can disable it, and now you will see that the object moves, for example, like this, moves outside. And if you have an object that moves through all the scene, it's definitely difficult to track it when you zoom, because it always goes off your viewport screen. So the easiest way to lock it just visually, press the lock view. And so in this case, even if you zoom in, you will still get pretty solid movement, just because we move all the playback. Look at this, like this. Object always stay in the same place. But actually, if you have selected pin, for example, one pin, or if you select a couple of pins, we will stabilize around them visually. So, for example, to check the quality of tracking, you can put the selection on a pin, enable lock view, and now when you track or when you move, you have stabilization around this point. That's a very helpful function to verify the quality of your tracking. So you can, for example, verify the quality. Here we have this scratch on that mask. I can put here the pin, just put it, just click, no drags, and then play around and look how our wireframe slides or not slide around the video. And well, tracking is pretty good. I think here we have a motion that goes a little bit off, and that's because of the fast movement here. So I can put extra keyframe here, manual keyframe, and then press refine, and it will refine this gap and that gap, and finally I will get very smooth and very accurate tracking.
We have several questions, and let's answer them because they are related to what we are showing right now. First one is, can you track two objects at the same scene? Okay,
yes.
It's written at the same time, but actually I think it's about like the same thing.
Yes, we can. So let's move on. Let's track a few objects in one scene. And by the way, this is a time when we can look on our another panel called Scene. So this is a panel where we can adjust our tracking in a space. We can align our scene, we can scale it, and even rig with the dependencies of null objects, so we can work with all that stuff that you really like to use when you animate in Blender. So let's position something better, because now in a 3D space, it's pretty weird. We have a camera and a strange angle. We have a model that flies around, and it looks good only in the projection. So let's position this scene, and we can position it by camera or by geometry. So, for example, by camera, I can move the camera now, and it will move with the animation and with the object at the same time, or I can rotate it. But to do it manually, I can put all the values here if I know what values I want to use. But actually, I can move the camera to 3D cursor or, for example, world origin. It's kind of preset. And yeah, I like to move it in the world origin. And by the way, as you see, I misclicked here in 3D space and everything canceled. That's because it's not applied to the scene till I press OK.
What is 3D cursor here?
Well, it's a Blender stuff. It's called 3D cursor. This kind of it's kind of point in a 3D space that it looks like this, and you can place it wherever you want, and then you can, for example, move something to this point. I can, for example, place a 3D cursor somewhere here, for example, on the ear. I just select one point, then place the cursor to selected, and now cursor is here in this point. And for example, if I move the camera to the 3D cursor, now it is here in this current position. So this is kind of instrument pretty interesting and unique in a Blender. So I will use the world origin, and I will use location like I think 1.6 meter height. Just why not? I think it's kind of correct position of a camera in the real world. And now I see, after I pressed OK, all our animation recalculated. So in projection here it still matches, but in 3D space now it has sense. But still not enough. The head is too big. I mean, really too big, because this is the height of our camera. It's 1.6 meters, and well, I cannot imagine the size of that head. So let's press scale and do something with that. And here we have like 3 options what to scale. So option to scale scene, when I scale everything around world origin or other point in 3D space. I can use the 3D cursor, whatever I want, but the origin is kind of the classical one. But I don't want to move camera. I want to scale only geometry. So I just press here geometry and scale geometry. So now I can scale my geometry. And well, I don't know the exact size of that head now. So I think that looks pretty okay. I pressed OK, and now I have everything kind of correct in the 3D space. I really like this solution to align everything. But if you prefer to use null objects or other relations in a scene, you can do it your common way. Just make any null object. Well, they all appears in the 3D cursor, so I will put this 3D cursor to world origin again. So if you create any null object, you can now parent it. Set parent, and now as you see, you have parented to the null object, and you can move that null object along the scene, and everything will be parented. You can scale everything and so on. So if you prefer this way, you can do it manually here with a null objects on any other hierarchy, or even you can use the special button that we created for you. It's called rig. So you can press the rig, just press OK, but we have like a lot of settings here. And now we have the same. We have null object. We have a null object parented to all the elements in the scene, the camera and geometry. And now you can work with it to align. And why I said that is it's kind of the part of the answer, what we can do with the other objects in the same scene. Because yes, we can do something. We can add here in our like good-looking scene, we can add another head. No problem. This is 3D software. You can do everything in 3D software. Let's import another head. Here it is, another head. Let's create new GeoTracker. Here it is, the button, create new GeoTracker, Fox 2. So we have the same camera, another head, and the same plate. So when we select the plate, our program looks to the name of that plate, and if it names the same as our previously calculated analysis file, they meshed together, and now you do not need to reanalyze the same shot. So just go and track it in the 3D space. And here it is what we have. We have like different size of that heads, but I will fix it.
It's look like helmet camera, really.
Yeah, it looked like helmet camera, but I think it's just it's not a problem. We'll fix it during our alignment. So here it is. We have our head. They are different sizes, but they are still in one scene. So what I can do, I can use our pins to align our head in a 3D space. God, I created the wrong one. Well, that's still difficult to do it. I'm not a professional user of Blender, but I really like how you can customize everything here. Sometimes more than you need, but it's better to have more options than less, I think.
Oh, wonderfully, because we have a right focal length. Now we can easily place a model precisely.
Yeah. That's kind of the trick. So we estimate the focal length when we align the proper model on this fox head. But actually, it's kind of trick you can use in your shots. For example, if you don't know the focal length, for example, not for tracking, just for placing your 3D objects in a scene, you can use GeoTracker to estimate that focal length. If you have, for example, cube, you can put that like the common box in a scene and align it, and then just match the perspective lines with estimate focal length and get the correct focal length. And yeah, as you notice here, we have absolutely different sizes of the heads, but they are absolutely in the one shot. So here it is, the first one, the another one, but they have like different sizes. That's not a problem. Let's track it. Let's track it backward because I made on a 10th keyframe. Let's track it forward. It looks.
I wonder, like, Caleb, did you try this scale thing? Like, did you? And
yeah.
Actually,
so it's super useful. What I've done is, let's say I have a scene where I have a general idea of the geometry, because like, so for example, in this scene, you can kind of see the vantage point and how the walls meet. Starting either here in GeoTracker or with a different software like FSpy, which is like a free software to kind of
oh yeah, it's best way, amazing software, really.
Yeah, so
FSpy
I'll start there
to
to get my perspective and camera's position. With that camera in Blender, I then take that, go through the tracking like this. Obviously, I don't care too much about the scale at that point, but then with the position of the camera that I have from FSpy, I'm able to basically scale down the head, rotate it properly, in the case of a head, to match the scale of my scene, which obviously for certain elements, if you're just using the track for like retexturing purposes or something like that, doesn't matter as much. But of course, if you're doing any type of simulation or anything where scale really does matter, like, yeah, the scale tools here at the bottom are very, very helpful. I did not know about the rig feature. That is super cool. So I don't have to manually be setting up the null and connecting everything on my own.
Yeah, it's nice to hear that you find it. And there is, it's really powerful thing. I'm really proud that we design it, because here you can even scale the tracked geometry using moving camera. I mean, when you scale this geometry and you have moving camera, we will recalculate the trajectory of the moving object according to scale, according moving camera positions. So that's really powerful thing you have if you have tracking, for example, from another program like Equalizer, or even made here in a Blender. You can still use GeoTracker along with it and use all these instruments with scale, position, and rig, and everything will work, I hope. look at this head. I mean, we just need to adjust the scale, and here it is. We have two elements in one scene, pretty the same scale. I can look through the 3D scene. They matched well, not exactly. Maybe I have to go top and then just rescale it, something like this. I think it's.
I was gonna say, if you know that both the heads are exactly the same size as far as like the model goes, something else you can do is, if they're the same model to begin with, you can look at the scale information that you can see at the bottom right corner there on the one head, match it with the other, and that way you know for a fact it's the right size.
You mean dimensions here?
No, scale.
Oh, right above it.
Ah, I mean scale. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that again,
So
that only applies
like...
if you know for a fact they're the same exact size in real life.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can put here the exact size, because it's like units, and we all work here in units.
Okay, while we are here, I'll probably ask one more question from our viewers. And it's a question from Galina. And is it... Oh, sorry, I lost it. Oh my, sorry. This chat sometimes acts like crazy. Oh yeah. So, is there a relation between the number of vertices and the model in the model and the track accuracy?
Well,
which is like, yeah, nice question.
Really, nice question. And well, as I understand, the answer is no. I'm right?
Almost. So,
Cool.
I always answer to this question that you have to have reasonable number of vertices. So there should be like the number of vertices, which is like enough to express the shape, but not more. So if, for example, you have like small stuff on, like, for example, I don't know, like wrinkles on the face, or I don't know, like some scratches, and you have extra vertices to have this, so then most likely you don't need it. So because it doesn't affect tracking at all. And if you have lots of vertices, then everything is terribly slow, like, because like if it's 1 million points in your mesh, then it's...
Well, actually, not really. I mean, we optimize it.
Okay.
it should work even with million polygons. But well, I think you're absolutely right that the vertices not matter in the tracking process, but amount of vertices describes the shape, and the shape, the accuracy of the shape, is really correlated with the quality of tracking. So if you have, for example, the globe, it would be not enough to have like 8 vertices, like a cube, because you need something that looks like sphere, but you can use really low poly sphere for that, and so on. So it depends on the complexity of your shape. So for example, here it's very dense mesh. No problem to have here less amount of polygons and vertices. Yeah. And by
probably
the way,
twice less. But what is really important, I would say, that it's the topology. Topology is important not for tracking. Topology is important for you when you place the keyframes. So if you have a clear lines and the topology is clear and you can like understand how the topology matches the object, that helps a lot. And if you have a mesh of like from polycloud or something like this, when it's just a mass of points with like without any order, in that case, better to do some at least like automatic retopology on top of this model. It will be way better for tracking and easy to you to set up keyframes consistently.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because as we said previously, the main quality, the main points you should think about to get really good quality of tracking is the accuracy of your model and consistency of your keyframes, which mean that when you put something, put your model over the plate, every time the same points on a model are matches the same points on the picture. So, for example, this is kind of what you can check with the lock view and selected pin. So here and during all your keyframes, like for example here, I have another one keyframe, and everywhere I should have the same position. If here I have this position, it looks like pretty the same, but it's very bad for tracking because a tracking try to match one position and another, and so finally you will get the jumps in your tracking. By the way, we little bit talk about topology, and yes, you can do whatever you want here in Blender with modifiers over your model. For example, while they have this new decimate, for example, I can decimate it as I understand, for example, make it not so dense, I think. I'm not sure how it works here, but I mean you can apply any modifiers and get that result in our plugin. So they are kind of connected, and we work with a real mesh that lives here. Oh, I will use subdivision. I think something like that. I'm not sure why they are not working, but they should work. Yeah,
by the way, Caleb, oh yeah.
I mean, I made it really dense, and but you can do it.
It still works. Caleb, did you retopologize the model from Polycom, or you use like it as it?
I used it directly from Polycam because I didn't notice a change in performance speed. If I did though, I'd probably do some type of either retopology or like a decimating thing where you kind of like unsubdivide it. And the Polycam scan that I used, the topology wasn't terrific everywhere. It was a playground, right? So you had freestanding swings and a slide and stuff like that. But there were certain points that were like pretty spot on, like the top of the playground and edges of the slide. And so it was just very intentional when I was putting pins down to choose points that did line up pretty well with the actual geometry. Instead of just kind of putting points everywhere, because kind of like Peter was saying earlier, if you're putting pins down and making multiple keyframes, and you're just kind of generally moving it so it looks like it's the exact same position, but the pin itself is not in the exact same position, and you can't really tell because there's not a lot of detail, that's gonna, I noticed on my end at least, that was causing issues later on. So I was just trying to be intentional about putting points down, putting pins down on very high contrast areas that were easier to kind of like visually track throughout the whole shot.
Got it.
Yeah, that's good
nice
idea.
tip. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah, let's continue. As I said, we have here option to choose what we want to track, the geometry or camera. Well, let's dive deeper into this concept of tracking. So I will make a new project and create a GeoTracker and load here the new footage I have for camera tracking. Here it is, the camera tracking footage. So, well, I don't like this box, I'll delete it. Here we have a building. Well, it's not really difficult to make that building in a Blender, especially if you know how to use FSpy and Blender, like extrude option. I mean, that's enough to build that building. But you actually can use,
that's the level of modeling I have is
yeah,
cubes
yeah.
and
I think
extruding.
that's enough to have pretty okay tracking, and it depends on the task you wanna do here. But for example, I have here. Oh God, I deleted. I have here the model. I can import it just to save time, and here it is. This is the model I have. This is the camera I have. So I wanna track this scene. So well, I have to analyze the shot. Press analyze, and well, after it's finished, we can use it in our tracking. So when we decide to track model, we choose geometry, the kind of the basic idea. But if we want to track the camera, it's kind of the same, but model is stay still and the camera flies around. So it's absolutely the same tracking, but inverse. And well, we need to wait till the end of the analysis process. So after that, I will click here. But like going further here in a scene, you can convert that animation. If you, for example, track geometry instead of the camera, you can convert it, and the geometry will stay still in the frame where you press convert, and the camera will fly around. But they will have the same motion between each other. So I want to move camera somewhere else just to easily match it. And well, let's press here camera. So and go inside. So what we have here, we have this model. Let's try to match it here in a frame number 2. I don't know why frame number 2. I will delete this keyframe. I want to place it somewhere, for example, in the end. In the, oh God, it's difficult to put it here. In the first frame. So I will put the first one pin here on this corner, the second one on this corner, the third one on this corner. But as you see, we have like glitching. The model goes somewhere. This is, well, it's not like really bug, but it's a problem with the clipping plane. As you see, we try to change the clipping plane here in the camera, but it still clips our model because it's really like huge model. So we can go out and in again in our Pinmode, and nothing happens. God damn. Well, I found a bug.
Wait, so you're trying to make sure it doesn't clip, correct?
Yeah.
If you go to view on the slim toolbar on your main thing, switch the endpoint, pull it up so it's further away in the distance.
Okay,
and that
like
should
this.
solve it.
Yeah, it should solve it, but I don't know why it's not.
Oh, sorry. Also go to camera real quick. So click on camera in your scene collection on the right-hand side. And then go to your camera options in the menus. And then go ahead and change right there as well under, where is it under? I forget. Right there.
Heaters?
Yep. Go ahead and pull that up and see if that resolves it.
Okay, yeah, it's resolved. Thank you very much.
Yep.
But well, we try to handle it, but I still see the like problems here. And if I enter it, okay, everything works correct. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. The green wireframe's on the ground as well. It's just hard to see with the grass.
Yeah, it's hard to see with the grass, and we can go to appearance tab and like explore what we can do here. We can change the color of our wireframe. We can make it more opaque, or we can disable the lit wireframe, which like try to put a light on this wireframe, but we don't need it now. Just we want to match this princess house like this. And well, as I see, we have a problem with our focal length here, but we know what to do. We just go to the camera, press estimate focal length, and align the perspective by just dragging my pins. It's pretty easy, I think, like this. So that's not really like very accurate model because it's made pretty quickly, but I think it's enough.
Yeah, it fits more or less enough, I would say.
So let's
actually,
go.
I probably think that even if you delete all the buildings from the model and just like have a cart, it will be even enough as well.
Yes, maybe, but I mean, I have model. Why I should do that? I want to enable here this 3D space to show what's going on. I have a model. I have a camera. Let's track it. And here it is. We have a camera that flies around our model. So that's how it works. Pretty easy, right? And we can even visualize our tracking path here. The motion path, calculate motion path. Just want to disable the keyframes. Just, yeah, that's how it looks. Pretty okay. I still use one keyframe to track all the shots. So that's how quick it is. And now I can put here, for example, balloon. We had that example in our tutorial. So I can try to find it, even show you how it looks like, but you can find the tutorial also there where we explain all details, how to even compose it in Blender. So by the way, I think I can show that window. Here it is. Do you see it? Can you see it?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that's what you can do. Like, the tracking is much faster with the geometry if you have that object. So geometry tracking is the kind of shortcut in a sense like here, because even put like 10 or 12 markers and track it manually will take more time, even if you don't know the focal length. So to solve focal length, to make sure that it's correct, it has correct perspective and so on. So here, if you have even cube that looks like this building, you can match the focal lengths, you can track the scene and use it, for example, in a case like this.
It's the art of making tutorials when you don't want to deal with shadow on trees. You just put it like so the shadow never touch the trees. And there is a question, by the way, like would track be more accurate if you remove the portion of the ground occluded by trees? Like I think it's behind the building.
Yes.
Like this one.
Well, let's talk about it. So in general, of course, yes, it is. If you have the if you have something on a plate on your footage, that's something that doesn't match your geometry, it will affect on your tracking in a bad way. But of course, we have like good algorithms that they try to avoid the bad influence. So here you can see everything sits pretty okay, but ground still slides around that trees because we don't have the trees in our model. So, but if you have a bad influence here, if you have like not really good quality of tracking, that might have happened. You can use our masks option. And here we have really powerful amount of tools that you can use for like for drawing around your occlusions to exclude them from tracking. And well, let's say we wanna isolate the part of that 3D model to get rid of that trees in our like tracking salvation. So what we can do, we can press here tab, go to the edit mode, and just use a brush, select some vertices here, like this. Maybe I will go to the polygons mode, because it's easier to see what I'm selecting. I can select this, then I can make the vertex group, call it M, like mask, and assign all that vertices to that vertex group. And now I can select this vertex group here and see that vertex group as a mask. So now when I track or refine, well, I cannot refine because I have only one keyframe. That's amazing quality of our tracking. But okay, I will just retrack it. It said I cannot press tracking when I'm not, when I'm in edit mode. Yeah, I have to go from edit mode. Here it is. So now when we track, we exclude that zones on the model. I think it's pretty useful, for example, when you have a model where you have a pretty solid part and soft part. Like for example, head. You can mask the jaw on your model and still use ears, eyes, just because they don't move, so they're not so soft on the head.
I had a suggestion related to that, and that would be so if you go to weight paint mode, you can paint the geometry with the proper weights for the vertices and the polygons, and if you align that first keyframe for your track, and exactly generally where you don't want the object to track for two reasons, like you said, a soft area like the jaw moving, or let's say you have a wall you're tracking, like a freestanding wall, but there's like something bumped out at part of it and you don't want to really deal with it. From the camera's perspective in weight paint mode, you can actually just paint exactly the area, so it's not really guessing as much. And then you can assign it like you did to the vertex group, and you'll have a very similar result. But that way you're not like going to edit mode in a different perspective, kind of guessing the geometry, going back and forth.
Cool. Wow. I will explore like how to do it here, but it sounds really nice. I mean, that sounds like a new tutorial. Like the tips and tricks.
By the way, like the general understanding regarding masks, like my general advice is that if it tracks without it, just don't do it. Like it's pretty tedious stuff. You need to assign them, you need to create them, and so on. If it tracks without it, just ignore this. If it doesn't work, then you always have two options. One is draw a mask, and sometimes it's an amazing option. But another one is actually just add one more keyframe, and sometimes it actually fix the problem.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, so it's always and it's the art of tracking.
The art of tracking is used as less options as possible, but the art of making tracking applications has as much options as possible, because all cases are really unique, and every time you start from just tracking, and then you need masks, and then you need more keyframes, you need something like smoothing, and we will talk about it a little bit later. But I mean, here we have a lot of options to improve your tracking, but if you have good tracking with a one keyframe, just use it. Just use it. And for example, here in the mask, we have this special 2D masks part where you can draw the 2D masks. I mean, the classic one, they are really hidden here in GeoTracker. Not GeoTracker, in Blender, but I don't know why, really, it's so difficult to find them every time, but they're here in the tracking, in the motion tracking, then select mask, then select here and drop down your video, and well, here it is, your video, where you can add the mask, like the circle, and you can move it, scale it, you can add points here. For example, if it's easier for you to just mask this tree manually, you can do this. Just press like I to make the keyframe. I then go somewhere here, grab keyframe. Just now it moves. Well, it works really slow in comparison with a 3D mask, because we should render it each time here. But you can use it here. Here it is, our mask. You can see we draw it, and here it is. Oh, I forget to animate it in the last frame. I always forget to press I. Here it is. So we have animation, and now if I will track, I will get the result excluding this zone. So this zone will be excluded from tracking process. But you see, it's really slow. It works really slow here. And what you can do else, you can make or get your masks from other department if you are working in a studio, and just load it as a sequence. So I have no prepared sequence here, but here you can choose the sequence of a mask, and in this row you select which channels you want to use for mask. So if I disable all that channels, I will get like no mask. But I can enable one and another, for example, or take a mask from alpha channel, or combine all of them. So I can have even like 4 layers of different masks. It depends on the pipeline of mask preparation. But it's really powerful thing here, and it works really faster than manual compositing masks you made here inside Blender. Let's go a little bit further and take a look on something more advanced. I think I have advanced idea to make to take a look on this scene. Let's take a look on this scene. So I have a scene where I tracked the camera. I tracked it manually in Blender, because like, why not? I did it, and we can see it here. I a little bit scaled for this. A little bit scaled everything for this stream, and that's why it's pretty difficult to find it. But oh god, I don't have tracking here. What? Doesn't matter. I mean, anyway, I have here tracking. You see the tracking markers, you see the camera, like everything works pretty okay. And in 3D space, everything aligned pretty okay. I don't know why all that null objects are like turned on a side, but it doesn't matter. Everything scaled and properly lie on y-axis, as I see. So what we can do here, we can say, whoa, I want to track that head. And yes, you can track that head, and you can use this already tracked camera. And when I create the GeoTracker object, it said that I need to like take care of my camera because I have constraints on it. And I press OK, and nothing happened. Just notice that I have constraints on my camera. That's the tracking constraint. So it would be great to press here just to bake this constraint. And I think I baked it. But you can even still work with that constraint, and it should work. But in some cases, that constraints can really mess up your scene. So if it's okay for you to get rid of that constraint, it's better to do that. But it's not like necessary to do. And I will make the motion pass, the calculated motion pass, just to show what's going on here. So we have a camera that moves along this axis. So I created a new GeoTracker object. What I can do, I can make a head, but where I will get it? Well, I will use our FaceBuilder. Let's
by the way, a funny story like regarding FaceBuilder, because FaceBuilder was created not to actually create faces. I mean, like it was created to create faces and heads, but it wasn't like for modeling or for creating characters or something. Like actually, GeoTracker was the first tool that we released, and then it's appeared that people tend to track faces a lot. And that's why we created a simple tool to obtain geometry of real humans, and it was GeoTracker. So
FaceTracker,
yeah,
FaceBuilder.
Oh, sorry, yeah, FaceBuilder. And this FaceBuilder thing is actually like how to get the model just using just a few photos, which really way more simple than scan the object first and retopologize it and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, we have lots of streams already and tutorials that covered how to use FaceBuilder in Blender, and like probably Petr will show it briefly right now, and then like yeah, we show how to track it.
Yeah. So that's not like tutorial how to use the FaceBuilder, but you just have to believe me. To make a model of a face, you definitely. Oh God, why don't I have all that stuff? You definitely have to have. I know why I don't have, because I can select my pre-analyzed file because I made it. It's like 2 gigabytes of pre-analyzed data there. And I mean, I just load it and I can start tracking. Well, you have to believe me that to get to build the model of a head, you need a few photos to understand deeply how it works. You probably can go and watch our streams or tutorials about FaceBuilder. But for now, I will just take a few views. For example, view like this. Just I will take it here in our plugin, take a snapshot, save it somewhere here, just somewhere here. Why not? I will check that everything works okay. Yeah, works okay. So I have this one. I have another one, for example, this side. One moment, this side. When the mouse is closed, I really like this view. Take a snapshot. Here it is. Blender advanced features. Here is the second one, and the third one. And let's briefly make that model. It's pretty easy to do. So now I have
actually trying to get photos from different angles.
Yeah.
Which
so
is important to get
I will
perfect model.
I will show the idea. So I create the FaceBuilder, and which has like basic head here, and I have a button with button to add the photos. So I'll go to my photos, just load it here, and go inside that photos. So here I have this basic model, wireframe, and the head, and I can press align face button to align it to face. And now, with a few moves, I can add and delete pins to form my model according that face, to build like exact model. Okay, I will do like briefly, not really accurate. And by the way, here I see I have open mouse, and the head is really has angle. So I will put allow facial expressions button here, which allows me to open mouth or like to handle expressions on the face, to build a pretty accurate model if I have different expressions on different views. But for now, I think it would be enough. And I will delete the not delete, like disable the neck here, just to get rid of the neck in the model because I don't need it. I can put everything, all points here, just in a few clicks. The next and the first one, I want to use this one first, just because I think I made the mistake to start not from the correct view, not from this view.
In my experience, it usually doesn't matter. Like you can start with any view. Sometimes if you start with profile, it's kind of tricky then to match front view. But 3/4 and all other views are more or less the same.
Well, maybe you're right. I'm not like the expert of building heads, but I mean, this is not a tutorial. This is kind of experience that we can get in this live stream. So align face, no problem. You can even build all that difficult shape of a head. You can actually repeat everything. That's difficult, but you can. Here it is, the ear. I press tab to hide the wireframe to match exact position. Briefly, here it is. I have this model aligned with. I think it's kind of enough quality for this time, because we just like try to explain how it's easy to use both plugins together. But of course, if you spend a little bit more time, you will get better results, more accurate tracking, and so on. So I think it's kind of enough for now. Maybe. Yeah.
Caleb, did you try FaceBuilder?
Yes, it's the first thing I used actually before GeoTracker, and it worked so well. Same process here. I basically found the 4 most extreme angles of the person's face for the shot I was working on, and it worked super well. I think it ended up, like I said, being 15 keyframes over the course of like 450 frames of footage, and it worked really well because I was adding digital hair to the character. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, this face is pretty similar, I think, to this shot. It looks pretty nice. I can delete it or Ctrl Z just to make sure everything okay. And I will select this head in the GeoTracker as an input, and now I can have ability to track. And I will track geometry because I want to track a head, but use this moving camera. So this camera is selected. So go in the Pinmode, here our head. So don't be shy, just in this case, just put another pin here and then rotate this head. It's sometimes people are afraid to rotate them. Yeah, but that's the magic of pinning. So I need only 3 pins here because it's actually the rigid object. GeoTracker tracks with rigid object, so there is no problem to match it with the 3 pins, but I cannot see the face. So I go to Appearance tab, just make, for example, black and a little bit transparent. So here it is. I can match this model. Well, mouth not matched, just because that photos with the different expressions, they are not very accurate, and I spend like not enough time to match it, but it's okay. So, and I can track it, and I will open it in a 3D space just to make sure that everything works okay. Just track it, for example, further.
I want to answer to one of the questions. It was a question by Fred. And can you track camera and object in the same shot? Actually, that's the answer. So if you track first the camera with a help of GeoTracker or just like the tracker that is bundled inside Blender, then you can use this camera with GeoTracker. So now you have like object which is moving not just like in like space, but it moving according to the tracked camera, and that's why like you can like put everything in one scene.
Yeah, don't be shy, just create another object in GeoTracker and track camera and track object and track another object. And if something goes wrong, like here, just, oh, I pressed not stop, I pressed exit. Just put a new keyframe here, no problem. I want to put keyframe here. And when I try to match this model, as you see, I have a problem because all other pins are like trying to move it another way. So I can press toggle pins. When I press it first, it's toggle the selected pin. But if I press it twice, I will toggle all pins. And then I can move 1, 2, for example, and 3. Here it is. I can
and
add more if
you
I
can
need.
toggle them back.
Yeah, and of course you can toggle it back. That's why it calls toggle. You can toggle them on, off. It's your choice. And so now I have a good keyframe. I have a bad track in between, so I go between and press refine and wait a few seconds. Just our plugin track it one side, then another side, and then try to combine. And as you see, we have pretty good tracking here. And we have bad tracking after because we had like previous alt tracking, but I will just clear it. So now I have this kind of tracking. For example, I really like it. I really like want to use this in my production, but I want to check the quality of the tracking. And as I see, the camera moves, the head is moves because the camera moves. So that's they are like work really correct inside, but not in terms of the scale, because you can see person staying still and camera moves. But here we have moving camera and moving object. That's because of the scale of that head. So in that case, as I remember, we have scale options. So we can scale our geometry right here. And I hope it works correctly, like that. By the way, I have selected my head in the 3D space. So here in the item in dimensions, I can see the dimensions of a head. So for example, if I if I can imagine the dimensions of a head, the height couldn't be like meter. So I can even shrink it down like this. 40 centimeters is too much, like this, okay? I press OK. I hope it worked. Just wait a few seconds. When we recalculate all the
Actually,
motion.
it should be around 29, and I think, or something.
29.
Like the size of your head is actually the size of your step, like from here to here, like more or less.
Oh, it's interesting. Okay, let's make it 29, like this. Okay, so I have no like measurement from that scene, but I can rebuild it here just because I can look on the units. And here it is. I have a head. I have a camera, and here's the head. And look at this. Now head is still, and camera moves back and forth. So it looks really correct. But here, if you look here, you can build the motion path. Again, the motion path of the head to check the quality of tracking in the motion. So what I mean, we have here pretty noisy tracking, pretty noisy. And well, that's a common problem. It's called jittering, I think, something like that. When your model moves a little bit further, little bit backward, little bit forward, and that's not that's difficult to handle it very smooth. But we have special options here. They called smoothing tab, And that's not the post filter. This is the settings for tracking and refine buttons that will smooth the motion when you track. So, for example, if I really don't like this movement, like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, I don't like this. I want to make it smooth. What I can do, I can make this tracking more still. For example, I will take the smaller amount of frames just to save time, and put here the new keyframe just to make the region I want to work on. And then what I can do, I can open the curves. Oh, well, curves wouldn't be like, it wouldn't be enough to see that curves, I think, because not enough space here to see the jittering. Okay, and I can make that translation, yeah, that translation a little bit smoother in the z-axis. And what's interesting here, x, y, and z-axis here, it's not the axis of your scene, not this one. This is the axis of your camera. So x and y, it's the axis that goes in the space of a camera, and z goes towards the camera. So I don't know how to explain it better.
No, it's very easy to explain. Like, look at me. You look at through camera, right? So here's my phone, and when I move it, like for example, 3 centimeters to the right or to the, upwards, you can easily see it, right? So that's why it's very simple. But if I move it like 3 centimeters towards the camera, there almost no change. You can actually like understand it only because there is a slight change in scale of the object in the projection. And that's why usually you have this Z problem with jittering along Z-axis, where Z is actually the camera axis. And that's why we have like this special smoothing option for Z camera.
Yes, and well, let's try to fix it. I put it here, the value like 0.3, because I want to use it, and I press refine, to recalculate, to retrack this gap between those two keyframes and make the movement smoother. If it's not enough, no problem, I can still tweak it. And we have these smoothing parameters even for focal lengths. If you use tracking camera and you select, for example, here the zoom camera. So if you have so complicated setups, we still have special smoothing parameters here that will smooth it, but only when you track or refine. It doesn't matter what you put here if you not press refine after that or track. So that means that, for example, in this range, I can use these values. And for example, in this range, I can use another values because they are not applied just right after I put it. It applies on that keyframes that I refined or retracked. And here it is. For example, I put really huge amount of smoothness on rotation, and that's why head don't want to rotate, so that's why it goes off. That means that I need really low value here to get a good result, or maybe a little bit lower value in the z-axis also.
Most likely on rotation.
Yeah, here it is. It looks nice, but not enough.
In most cases, like in real life, I almost never use rotation or like translation, XY translation, but Z translation and focal length translation are very helpful.
Yes, you're definitely right. So
what do the values mean there? Is it pixel based? So for example, 1.00 would be 1 pixel smoothness, or is it kind of like an arbitrary relative value?
No, it's just extreme relative stuff. Like okay. You can think about 1 is like completely locked,
okay,
and 0 is completely like unlocked.
Gotcha.
And then there is like a kind of weight here.
Okay, so that was the complicated stuff that works. That explains how it works with the already tracked camera and the smoothing parameters and the model that you can build in a FaceBuilder and use right here in GeoTracker, so it works like a bundle. Well, let's take a look on another advanced option, the advanced option of texturing. We can texture.
By the way, we have
here.
a question in the chat regarding what you want to show. Like, is there a way to get the texture from several frames and combine them all together, stitch them all together?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. Let's do it. Let's do it. I have an example scene.
I'm happy when I have this question on stream, because it's question regarding exactly what we want to show. But at the same time, I'm really upset because we have that option in interface, and it should be easily to find it, but it's not. Probably
maybe that's a question in advance. We don't know. Here I have exactly explanation of that task to project texture from different side or object and combine them together. So I have already tracked this object. This is a box that I rotate all the sides. So let's start. And here I will collapse everything just to make it easier to understand. Here I have texturing option. And I see here add frames. So I can add any frame on a playback just by clicking here. And here I see.
Did you try it?
No, I'm actually learning right now because I am very curious about
that. Finally, we found something that Caleb didn't try.
Okay, so I add the frame number 6 here and create a texture. And here it is. From frame 6, we project the texture on a model, and it is there inside. I mean, if you have
so cool.
the really good UVs, you will see it here in a good way. If you have a bad UVs, you will see it in a bad way. But if you don't have UVs, you will get here special buttons that will notify you that you don't have UVs. You can generate them automatically using the Blender's way to generate automatic UVs, or go and do it manually.
Bad UVs.
And you will get bad UVs, but still get it. I mean, have ability to build the texture. But of course, it's better to have a model with a good UVs. So if you have that model, you will get nice texture and you can use it. So I used only one frame to build it, but I have more sides of that object and I want to combine them. So what I can do, I can go to the next frame like this and add it here because I want this side also using a texture. And I want to use this side as a texture. And I want to use this side as a texture. And as you understand, you even cannot track if you don't need a track. You can just make a few manual keyframes where you align properly your model from different angles and then use it to texture your object even without tracking. So I think it's enough. I will press create texture, and now I have that box. And so all the texture is built from all the sides. So now I have it here.
And importantly, could you show, for instance, frame 166?
Frame
166.
166. Yeah, no problem. You can just click here to select it and to delete. But if you want to view it, you just press the I and you go to the exact frame.
And open it's in Pinmode.
Okay, but you can even use not Pinmode, just enter the camera. It's the same.
Yeah. So you see here, you see not only this plane, but you also have a very stretchy other face of the cube, right? The thing is that we stitch the projection very in a magic way. We actually look at the angle and never use and we always select the parts which are like face to the camera. So it basically means that, for example, if you want to, like in FaceBuilder, if you want to stitch several photos together, it actually took the part of the texture which has the best angle to the camera and smoothly stitch it all together. And that's why it's like very handy when you want to texture your object.
So cool.
Yes. And all that parameters, if you are like professional, you can manage here under this button. Just you can make any resolution of that output texture. You can put, you can change angle stretchness, which is the parameter that Roman described just now. That the angle where you not use the texture because it's too stretchy. And here we have like huge explanation about how to use it and how it works. And here we have even expand edges, which is a professional tool. I will delete all the views except one, just create a texture from the one view. And for example, you want to use it then in Photoshop or somewhere else to make a better texture or to paint it by yourself. And you may need the stretched borders here. And for example, well, for now, it looks like this. It just fits the model. But we can stretch this texture a little bit more and just rebuild it. And now we will have these stretched pixels around. So sometimes it's very important to have that kind of stretched pixels to make the good seams in on your model.
Now, if you have expand edges on and you're making multiple samples, will the priority be the images at hand and the expanded pixels only
exactly?
Go on the outside
Yeah.
of
So
the
it's actually just to fill the holes. In many cases, it's just to filling the holes.
Yes. In many cases, just to filling holes. And here, after creating a texture, you will get the export and delete button. So delete to delete and export button to export it in JPEG, PNG, and EXR. Even EXR, you can use these parameters to have like really good quality texture if you have a good quality source, of course. And under all of these buttons, we have a special button called Save to Sequence. And this button is not related to all the other stuff in this panel, because this button works the different way. It projects each frame to the model and save this UV texture from that frame to the sequence. So finally, you will get something like a sequence where you have a lot of pictures. And you can use it, for example, for cleanup, for, I mean, it's more compositing thing to reproject something, but you can still use it, no problem. Just I will create a folder, like new folder, call it JPEG, call it somehow, just press, and now you should wait when we render each projection in a sequence, and then we will get it as a sequence. I can escape to abroad and show, well, I can show you, I think I can show you the folder where we have all that cool, one moment, all that UVs, and I will play it in a player because I oh god, no. I have the player special player for this kind of sequences.
Hopefully it's not called Nuke.
No, it's not called Nuke, of course. One moment, I'm ready to show you this window. Here it is. You see it?
Oh, yeah, cool.
And you can play it here. And here the projection from each frame. So this is the frame, the first frame when we see that angles, and you see how they are like really stretchy. And after some time, they become more accurate, as you see, more sharp, because we move the object. So this is how this button works.
Yeah, it's very handy when you want to change the texture. So it's handy for cleanup, for adding some, I don't know, like scratches, anything you want to, like for texture remapping and all this kind of stuff.
Yes. So that was everything about advanced features in our plugin that I want to cover today. But I still want to like dive deep and say something about cases, how we can use it. And well, I have the interesting idea to use it as the to use it as simulation part. So for example, here I have a scene where I track the car. We can look through Pinmode to see what we have here. I track the car, like roughly track the car in this shot. And then I aligned everything in a scene to get kind of proper scene. And then I made the rigid body simulation with the monkeys, of course, and where I use this car as animated rigid body. And monkeys, they will fall down, and then car will hit them. And so this is the idea, for example, for visual effects, to use it, to use tracking like a source for breaking walls, for I don't know, for applying some strength, some power to the object. And I think it's pretty cool idea to use tracking to drive your simulation. What do you think, Caleb? Will you use this kind of
Absolutely, yeah. Between rigid bodies, cloth simulations, anything why the scale is really important. Obviously, whenever you're doing anything with gravity or any physics factors whatsoever.
Cool. I'm really proud that we made something so so helpful in so many like cases that you can even imagine. And well, in the last thing I want to show you is the two renders, the render of this shot and the render of another shot, which is like really complicated scene, and I don't want to like open it here during the stream, but I want to show you that you can use it even in fire simulation. I mean, I'm not the professional of making fire, but you can see like my masterpiece in our last well, it's not last demo, it was our first GeoTracker demo in the summer, where we did the fire and we tracked the object and use the movement as a part of simulation to drive that particles, to drive all the flames. So I think that's really cool that you can use tracking for so interesting cases. So
Very versatile tool.
Yeah, one moment. Yes, I found it. Here it is. I have a window with an image, and here it is. This is the moving car, and I tracked the camera with Blender standard tracking. But you can use a plane, for example, and track this shot with a GeoTracker also. And then I used another GeoTracker to track a car because I need movement of a camera and I need movement of an object to make kind of proper fire that moves, that goes through the scene. And what I did finally, I'll open the new window with the render. And I'm not sure.
Oh my gosh.
Something like that. What? That's not professional fire, but I mean, it moves.
Burning.
It's burning. It moves kind of proper in the physics way. I think the flames is too big, but I mean, in other cases, it looks nice, I think.
Well, for me, it was when I first time saw it. For me, it was something like, wow, how fast and how easy to create it in Blender, because like used to try to do the same in other software, like in Nuke, obviously, in Cinema 4D and so on. But Blender, like, blown my mind, like, because it's way faster. So it was like really amazing.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening me so long. But that's all. That's all I have for today. And I'm ready to answer questions. If you
we have a number. We have a number of questions, and I'll try to answer them one by one from the very beginning. So first one is okay. First one will be my question to Caleb. Did you learn something new today?
Yes, that's easy. Yeah. I think the biggest takeaways that I didn't already know involve texturing, of course. Also, some of the lock features, I didn't realize you can actually lock down all the pins and just kind of move one, because that actually was a point of problem for me early on, trying to, reorient an object, and, you're moving one tracker and the rest are kind of correspond for it, and it was really difficult for those big motions of just moving the object as a whole over in the scene. So that is also very valuable. I did have, if possible, I have one question in particular that I was unsure about, and I think I saw it in the comments on YouTube as well, but just the idea of more organic shapes, maybe like a deforming muscle or, things in motion. Is there an ability to use blend shapes to also have an accurate track, or does it need to be a rigid object?
Well, it's a nice question. Like, at the moment, we support on the rigid objects. Like, we used to have several prototypes, for example, for full body tracking, to track real, like, and also in Nuke, we can track objects with rigs. It's not yet supported by Blender version. But like rigs, by rigs I mean skeletons. So you can track the like movement of the bones and joints, and but it's still not like arbitrary tracking of any surface or something like this. So it's a kind of limitation that probably will be relaxed in the future. But yeah, currently it's not supported by Blender version, unfortunately.
So best bet for now in Blender would be kind of doing the rigid track first, and then doing your own maybe manual kind of rotomation to match the deformation.
Yes, exactly. That's probably the simplest way now, to get the rough motion first, and then fix it manually.
Cool.
And Yinyon asked, do we have a plan to integrate it with Cinema 4D? To be honest, nope, not at the moment. We are considering this option, and but it's not yet a plan. So we haven't yet started to do it. We're just exploring API and demand for it and so on. There is an option to actually track everything in After Effects, and then you can easily export it with one button to Cinema 4D. So it's definitely a way. And given that many Cinema 4D users actually use it in combination with After Effects, so probably it will do the trick for you. The next question is about this tracking full body. So there was like one experimental version with full body tracking that was showcased a few years ago. And currently it's not supported neither in Blender or nor Nuke. So it's still in experiment for us. Can the model change and that's exactly the question that Caleb just asked about, like shape case to deform the model. And it would be really cool if GeoTracker pins could be used to animate the face. And actually we have a product which works like this. It's called FaceTracker. Internally, it's completely different stuff. It looks very similar to GeoTracker, but it's FaceTracker, and it's works only in Nuke right now. But today, okay, that is going to be a small teaser. We are working on FaceTracker for Blender as well. And we already have a working prototype, which is amazing. Like it can already track everything like nicely. Like we just polishing it and just stay track. Hit this bell button under the video to be subscribed on our YouTube channel, subscribe to our Discord channel, and you'll be definitely notified if we release something new, and we will release something new. One more question here is, why do you still have to manually adjust all the pins? And are you ever going to use AI as a part of GeoTracker? We will definitely, we are using AI as a part of FaceTracker to track faces. With geometries, it's way more complicated because geometries are can be very different. Like even today, we look a lot of different objects, and all of them AI stuff, it's not a magic thing. It's actually all about training it on real data, and real data is more or less standard. So to track object of some arbitrary type, usually it's quite challenging for AI. But we are working on new technologies that will simplify the keyframe alignment and will be more robust in terms of tracking. And again, stay tuned. And this technology is already showing really promising results.
I feel like it's also important to state how much simpler just even moving pins to move geometry in Blender is than just clicking the geometry, rotating, and transforms. It's such a simpler way of getting to those same results so much faster too.
Yeah, and also this lock view, or how it's called, thing really simplify
pins, right? I think
toggle pins and lock view and all this stuff together. Yeah, so we have quite a number of tools that already simplified the process quite significantly. We use our tools, so we actually try to simplify the process. Any comments from you, Caleb? Probably you have some final words.
Yeah, comments from me would be I've only used GeoTracker and FaceBuilder in Blender for a few months now. It's already a staple for me. One of my favorite add-ons for sure. And it's even after this call, just kind of coming up with new ideas of ways to utilize the tool for more unorthodox ways other than just getting a good track, whether that be for simulation purposes, projection mapping purposes, and now texturing purposes as well from projection mapping. It's such a cool tool. And I the second I saw you guys announce GeoTracker and Blender, I was so excited. I know I DM'd you guys, I think pretty much immediately after that. And yeah, super cool.
Thank you a lot. And in the very end, I will end the stream with my favorite save but comments. Oh yeah. And thanks again for this wonder toolset. Saved my ass countless time already. And it was by Galina and one by Jordan. These shots would have been very difficult using traditional methods. A lot of handheld shots, occlusions, products entering and leaving the frame with little tracking area in some shots. I used Houdini and Cinema 4D, but GeoTracker has turned Blender into a really amazing sidekick, particularly for object tracking. You guys saved my butt on this one. And the last one, it's not, but I like the comment. Literally just subscribe to KeenTools for a month. Looking forward to having a play. Thank you. Thank you for your support. And thank you for today's stream. Thank you, Caleb. And of course, thank you, Peter, for presenting this tool set today.
Thank you.
Thank you both
Caleb.
very much.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
Yes, thanks everyone who come here. Yeah, that was amazing. See you on the next stream.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.